So collecting data on the plant floor today or in your industrial networking environment has a number of considerations, all surrounding these sort of three themes, security, troubleshooting, and system maintenance. And I think there's just a bunch of questions that, you know, manufacturing engineers, IT security people have about how data gets collected from a process wise on the plant floor and how that can actually be improved on its efficiency. So, from a networking perspective, how many machines are connected to the network? Are they wired or wireless on the plant floor? Do they have internet connectivity or not? And if they don't have internet connectivity, is that internet connectivity because it's blocked at the perimeter, or are those assets actually air gapped from the network altogether? Then we get into the types of devices. How old are the devices? Are they legacy machines? Do they have a lot of useful life left in them? Is this a rip and replace situation where, if we ordered new machines and that had better connectivity, would be able to protect them better by installing newer softwares on them? Or are we happy with what we have, but we want to actually improve, their ability to talk to newer applications in the cloud without actually have to meddle with anything on those actual assets? Then we get into the more procedural steps. How is data collected from these machines on the plant floor? Is this a manual process where someone walks around with a USB stick, pulling the data off the machines and then going over to the engineering workstation? Are all these machines networked on the plant floor, talking to that local engineering workstation, or are they actually cloud enabled where the applications on the plant floor machines themselves talk to other cloud-based applications across the internet? How is maintenance and troubleshooting done? Are there access controls inside of the network? How does this scale across multi-site manufacturing operations? I could go on forever with considerations that these engineering teams and these networking teams have within the OT environment. Jim, was there anything that I missed there?
Well, yeah. So I think, some of the things that we need to talk about when we talk about security troubleshooting and system maintenance, like you said, is the access methodology. How are we going about doing this? Are we talking about contractors, remote contractors getting into the network? How are they getting into the network? Rhetorically, of course. Are they using VPNs, right? Or are we using VPNs as an organization? We know VPNs can be costly. We know they can be complex when you think about, network infrastructure, what type of hierarchical structure exists within the environment. And then I think you have to take into account that, VPNs aren't secure necessarily the entire time until that tunnel is established. There's a lot of naked data out on the network that could be sniffed. We're also talking about anonymity. VPNs are not going to necessarily ensure anonymity. So again, you have to think about these things. You have to think about legacy devices, like you said. Are these devices designed with inherent protections in mind? Do they already have inherent protections, or do they need some augmentation in order to provide those protections? So there's a lot more to it than simply the obvious, right? Are these machines even designed initially to connect via Ethernet to the network, or have they been adapted? Again, instead of, like you alluded to, instead of doing a full rip and replace, do we have the ability to put something in that's going to provide that protection, provide that access, and really make your life a whole lot easier as a network engineer or as an organization?